Word and the Spirit creates, redeems, and sanctifies. Amen. Please be seated. This Sunday's Gospel is a continuation of the encounter between Jesus and his followers that we heard last week. Jesus has told the parable of the rich fool, who looked at the abundance surrounding him and thought only of how he could keep it to himself, stuffing his own barn and his own belly with what the earth and hired labor had given to him. Jesus frames the meaning of that parable around our invitation as disciples to be generous toward God, rather than centering our lives only on our own wants and desires. Jesus goes on to tell them to strive for the realization of God's kingdom over and above anything else, not being distracted by the worries of what they will eat or what they will wear. If the disciples embody Christ and his message, they will be a people who care for one another, meeting those daily necessities as a community, so that no one goes hungry or poorly clothed or homeless. In this week's reading, Jesus builds on these teachings. Do not be afraid, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give alms. Make purses for yourselves that will not wear out, an unfailing treasure in heaven, where no thief comes near, no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Like the rich fool, we can mistake the gifts of God to be our own possessions. We delude ourselves into considering those material blessings we receive as works purely of our own knowledge and skill. We claim possession for what is, in reality, gift. This sense of possession makes us ungenerous toward our neighbor, and in being ungenerous toward our neighbor, we are ungenerous toward God. Jesus teaches his disciples to rid themselves of any sense of possession. In this way, they can begin to practice generosity toward their neighbor and toward God. And unlike the rich fool, their treasure will not be bound to anything on earth. Their treasure will not be limited to what can be gathered into a barn or hidden away and hoarded in a vault or bank account. If the disciples follow what Jesus is teaching them in the passages we are reading in these few weeks, the disciples will indeed begin to embody Christ, and their treasure will be in the loving community they create with one another, not in the piles of stuff they can accumulate for themselves, and that will ultimately turn to handfuls of dust. Embodying the gospel is our treasure. Co-creating with God a kingdom in which, as Isaiah says, we act against evil and learn to do good, in which we seek justice, rescue the oppressed, defend the orphan, plead for the widow. Building communities in which we care for creation so that its abundance is neither despoiled nor hoarded, but nurtured and shared, so that none worry about what they will eat, what they will wear, or where they will lay their heads at night. Jesus tells his disciples to make haste in this work, not to wait until it is convenient or it seems the most necessary. Recognize that all we have is a gift, not a possession. Recognize that those who do not have enough are meant to have a share in God's generosity, and we need to recreate our communities to reflect that. Recognize that, as Isaiah shows us, our discipleship is not a matter of saying the right words or styling out our worship services. Our call from God is to be transformed in our way of being and to act on the new vision, the new understanding we receive in Christ. Now is the acceptable time. Now is the day of salvation. Now is the time to rid ourselves of mere possessions and strive for the promised treasure and shared abundance that can only be found in loving God, our neighbor, our enemy, and ourselves.